right, hello. My apologies, I am in the middle of moving house. I wanted to take just a quick minute and talk about a theme that I saw, I don't know, a day or two ago. I was watching someone's video, and this person was so angry, so angry about people on YouTube presenting the teachings of Neville Goddard. Essentially, that was the point of this video. And she was upset about it because Neville Goddard is associated with the law of assumption. So this idea that I will ask for what I want, or I will decide on what I want, and I will assume it is already mine, right? And by the thought process of this person presenting the video, she thought this was just the worst possible teaching to give. She thought it was extremely egotistical, bordering on the narcissistic. Yeah, I could see her point. If we are looking at it from a point of view that me, the ordinary person, is just saying, I want this, I deserve to have it, gimme, to the universe. But I believe that although she was very well intentioned in this video to say that these teachings are not correct, I think the miscommunication was maybe a little bit on her side. But hello everyone, I'm Witch Hazel, and I like to talk about meshing the practical side of witchcraft with the more kind of esoteric spiritual side of things that is a little bit more difficult to comprehend and get into for many people. And the way that I do that is through a very strong emphasis on the intuition, on developing your intuition and learning how to listen to the intuition. And the reason for that is because that intuition is your divine spark. It is your connection to the divine. I do have available in the description my 4-step guide to help develop that divine connection and that use of the intuition. So if you haven't got that yet, go ahead and take a look in the description. Also, if these themes interest you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, all of that. So now that I've got that out of the way, back to our point about the law of assumption and egotism. So one of the points that this person was making in her video was that the law of assumption completely negates or leaves out essential shadow work, self-work. What else did she say? There was another thing. It leaves out, surrendering, and essentially gives us a carte blanche to just say, I deserve what I want simply because I say I do. That's how she was interpreting it. But what I want to point out is that this is not really the case. So as I mentioned in my video about self-work, doing shadow work, doing inner child work, doing whatever type of therapeutic work, whatever you want to call it, whatever method you use, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's not necessarily necessary for everyone. I pointed out that when I did shadow work, when I did therapeutic work, it very often made things worse for me because I felt obligated to find problems within myself that then needed fixing. And I don't think this is how therapeutic work is supposed to function because that is not therapeutic. So I can understand that side of it. But the thing to remember about the law of assumption is that Neville Goddard was not just making stuff up randomly. I believe he taught in the 50s and 60s, and what he was saying was exactly the same as spiritualists who came before him. I'm going to reference, of course, Yogananda, because I'm still reading through Yogananda. It's fresh in the mind. Yogananda taught between the 20s and all the way to the end of the 40s. Same thing. Both of them reference the Bible. I mean, you can't go much further back for spiritual writings than that. And it's always the same message. The message is, it's not saying that you can have whatever you want just simply because you want it. You just have to assume that it's yours and you have it. That is very surface level, and that's not the message. What all of these authors are trying to say, and what is also written in the Bible, is when you ask for things, when you request things from the universe or from God, whoever you're requesting from, the idea is not that you are separate and you are just saying, give me this, I want this. The idea is that you are looking within first. Both said that. Yogananda, very big on meditate within first, find God within. Neville Goddard as well, find the self, find the, what does he call it? The inner man, I think. The inner self. The reason is because that inner self is your divine connection. None of us exist in this world without some divine spark. If we did not have that divine energy in us, we would all be dead, essentially. We would not be animated. So you have to find that divine spark first. And then when you assume that I have this or I can have this, it's not because you just want something. Hopefully. It's because you realize that everything in the universe exists at all points in time, and because you are a part of that energetic existence, then everything exists for you as well. All you have to do is be open to receiving it. And that is what Goddard was attempting to say, that if we understand that we are connected to the divine, then that is the reason we can say, I assume it to be mine, and actually have or receive that thing that we want. Because we have not just requested something, we've not just demanded something, we have realized that we already have it. That's the difference. It's not making demands. So, at any rate, hopefully I've made some sort of sense, but I wanted to get this point across because it's going to come into play, I think, with the theme I wanted to go with for this month, which was the connection between the intuition and confidence. So in this other video where she was so angry about the way Goddard is being taught, she took that confidence as being egotistical. And that becomes problematic because this is a big issue why we have trouble connecting to our intuition. Because the intuition, how can we usually describe it? We say it's that little inner voice, right? It's that voice inside of us that we tend to ignore. Why would we ignore it? If we are not confident in ourselves, if we have not realized and claimed our connection to the divine, our internal spark, then that little voice inside of us becomes our ego, not our connection to the divine, in our minds, right? If I have no confidence in myself, if I do not believe I am connected somehow, some way to the divine, then if I say, oh, I want a bigger house, for example, and this little voice in my head says, you should have a bigger house, you deserve a bigger house. Well, now everything from the outside world, plus my lack of confidence, is going to tell me, oh, well, that's just my ego talking. I don't really deserve a bigger house. I don't really, there's no reason I should have this because, you know, insert every possible negation here, right? That is the issue, and that is why I started to say in that other video that while I don't believe absolute belief in something is necessary to make things manifest, I do believe a certain level of confidence is, a certain level of faith. And now I'm using these two terms, confidence and faith, interchangeably, they are not the same thing, but I will try to explain that better, I think, in another video. What I want to get at in this one is the fact that if we don't have just a little bit of our own confidence to help us realize that the voice we're hearing is guidance, it's not just our own selves trying to be the most important thing, then we're going to have a difficult time. So that is kind of the point I wanted to make. I don't want to delve too far down a rabbit hole, and you may have noticed by now I didn't really prepare much for this video. So let me just recap to try and get things kind of ducks in a row, and then I will continue on the theme of self-confidence, self-love, gaining in intuition and faith in additional videos for this month. The idea is, 1, if we look at things like the law of assumption as being our egotistical selves saying, I want this, I deserve it simply because I want it, universe needs to give it to me. No, that's not an effective way to function. That's not a great way to go about it. The reason is, and the reason this is not going to work, is because we are not recognizing that there is something greater than the egotistical self. We are not recognizing that divine spark in us, and it's that divine spark that actually makes things happen. The way to make the law of assumption function, if this is something that you believe in, is to look inside first, is to develop your connection with the divine first. And I think this may be what that other YouTuber was talking about when she was talking about self-work. Because yes, if you don't have the connection to your inner divine, then it's not going to work out well. It's not going to work. Any of these concepts are not going to work for you. I believe that her thought was the only way to develop that connection is through things like shadow work and self-work. Deepen that connection with divine, and that is when you will be able to use these other law of attraction, law of assumption, all of those will start to work if you develop that inner connection first. All right, everyone. Well, I hope this was somewhat useful. At least I thought it was an interesting theme. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the comments below. And I will be seeing you again soon. Until then, everyone, blessed be.